It started with a funeral. But not just any funeral. This was the burial of Evelyn Carter, a 28-year-old journalist who had mysteriously vanished 2 weeks prior. No body was ever recovered, just a few bloodied belongings discovered at the edge of the old train station on the outskirts of town. Everyone assumed the worst. Her family insisted on closure. A coffin, closed and sealed, was buried beneath the gray sky of Westbourne Cemetery. But closure is a dangerous thing when the truth is still alive. 3 days later, at exactly 3:13 a.m., the graveyard keeper, Harold, was doing his usual rounds when something strange cut through the silence. A phone was ringing. It wasn't just echoing from somewhere nearby. It was coming from underground. From Evelyn's grave. Curiosity wrestled with fear. Harold wasn't a brave man, but the sound, the eerie familiarity of a modern ringtone cutting through ancient death, was unbearable. He stood over the freshly turned dirt, heart pounding, listening as the sound vibrated through the soil. The phone kept ringing. Over and over. Unable to take it anymore, Harold called his friend at the local police department. But here's where it gets strange. The police already knew. They had received a call from that number, Evelyn's number, 2 hours earlier. Except the call didn't come from the cemetery. It pinged from inside the old subway tunnels beneath the city, abandoned for decades. Meanwhile, Evelyn's last investigation before she vanished involved a shadowy group known only by initials, VIRGO. They were rumored to be behind a string of mysterious disappearances, all journalists, whistleblowers, or people who knew too much. Evelyn had told her editor that she was on the verge of exposing them. Then, nothing. Silence. Blood. Gone. Until now. Who was calling? And why now, after her funeral? Was it a trick? Or was it Evelyn herself? Detective Aria Monroe, the officer in charge of Evelyn's missing person case, arrived at the cemetery shortly after Harold's panicked call. She had seen strange cases before, but this was something different. By the time she got there, the ringing had stopped. But something was off about the ground. Fresh dirt. Slightly disturbed. As if someone, or something, had clawed at the inside of the coffin. If you stare into the abyss long enough, sometimes, it whispers back. And then came the message. Aria's phone vibrated in her pocket. Unknown number. No caller ID. Just one line of text. Help me. They buried me alive. Sent from Evelyn's phone. Impossible. Evelyn was dead. Declared so. Buried. Yet the phone, pinging off towers in impossible places, kept sending signals. Aria tried to trace the message, but the origin bounced from one abandoned part of the city to another. The old subway. The electrical grid beneath the courthouse. Even the catacombs rumored to run beneath the mayor's mansion. All places where VIRGO was rumored to operate. Was this a conspiracy to silence her forever? Or was Evelyn part of something even darker than she had uncovered? Sometimes the truth doesn't set you free. It buries you. But there's something nobody knew, not even the detective, not even Harold the groundskeeper. Someone was watching. A figure, motionless behind the dense trees near the cemetery, phone pressed to ear, listening. Smiling. They knew where the next call would come from. It wouldn't be the last time a phone rang from beneath the earth. Not by a long shot. What's buried doesn't always stay buried. The next day, news of the mysterious text spread among a very select few. The police were ordered to stay silent. Detective Aria Monroe was given strict instructions to drop the case. But something in her gut screamed that this was far from over. And that feeling was confirmed when Evelyn called her. At 2:46 a.m., Aria's phone lit up. Unknown caller. She answered, expecting a prank or interference. But instead, a woman's ragged, desperate whisper filled the line. Detective Monroe, they know you're listening. You have to find room 17 before they come for you too. Static. Silence. Then, sobbing. But what was room 17? And who exactly was they? That same night, Harold, the graveyard keeper, couldn't shake the memory of that ringing phone underground. Against his better judgment, he returned to Evelyn's grave. Something told him he wasn't alone. And he was right. There, kneeling by the grave, was a woman in a black veil, gently pressing her hand to the dirt like she was listening for a heartbeat beneath the soil. Who are you?" Harold whispered, barely able to breathe. The woman turned her head, revealing a half-burnt face and a stitched-up mouth. But when she opened her lips, she only spoke 2 words. "She's awake." Detective Monroe dug deeper. Room 17 wasn't just a place, it was a file. A secret police file buried in internal archives from over 20 years ago, labeled VIRGO Case Number 17. Redacted. Hidden. The more she uncovered, the more horrifying it got. Evelyn Carter wasn't the first person to go missing tied to this file. In fact, she was the 7th. And the first 6. All declared dead. All with closed-casket funerals. No bodies. Aria's hands trembled as she read one particular memo scrawled across the bottom of a decades-old report. Subjects buried for compliance. Psychological collapse expected. Success rate, 83%. What were they testing? And then, the second call came. Same unknown number. Same eerie, static-laced voice. But this time, the voice on the other end didn't beg for help. It laughed. "Tick-tock, detective. Do you hear it yet?" A faint sound began humming behind the static. It was ringing. Faint. Continuous. Like dozens of phones going off at once. But not from her phone. From the walls of her apartment. Frantically, Aria pulled furniture away from the drywall. Her heart dropped. Embedded deep within her walls were burner phones, dozens of them, sealed into the plaster and insulation. All of them now buzzing. All of them displaying the same notification. Incoming call. And the caller ID, Evelyn Carter. But Aria wasn't alone in discovering these horrors. At that same moment, across the city, a retired conspiracy journalist named Michael Ashford, a man Evelyn used to contact for secret files, was found dead in his cabin. Self-inflicted gunshot wound, they said. Open and shut. Except, someone leaked the last voicemail from his phone. "Evelyn, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have opened the file. They put her there. It wasn't an accident. They need her to call." Click. One question now screamed louder than the ringing phones. Why? Why bury someone alive and make them call out? And then the worst revelation of all. Evelyn wasn't the first. But she might be the only one who answered. It's not death they fear. It's what happens if someone survives. Somewhere beneath the city, far below the subways, beyond rusted gates and forgotten tunnels, a metal door sat slightly ajar, marked with one thing only. 17. And beyond that door, the phones never stopped ringing. The door wasn't supposed to exist. Room 17 was supposed to be a file, not a place. Not a steel-reinforced vault hidden beneath layers of decayed infrastructure, wrapped in rusted chains and old government seals. Yet here it was. Detective Aria Monroe had followed the trail, burner phones, encrypted messages, silent witnesses, and it had led her here. Deep beneath the city. Alone. And behind that door, the phones were ringing. Meanwhile, across town, Harold, the graveyard keeper, had gone missing. Last seen by neighbors heading toward the cemetery just after midnight, carrying something wrapped in plastic sheets. They never found him. But what they did find, buried behind the caretaker's shed, was another coffin. Not one from Evelyn's funeral. This one was ancient. Scratched. And on the lid, carved with something sharp, were 3 horrifying words. Answer the call. Inside room 17, the air smelled of metal and decay. The hum of old machinery vibrated in Aria's bones. This wasn't a burial chamber. This was a testing facility. Dozens of coffins lined the room, some pristine, others clawed from the inside. Each one wired with ancient telephone cables, rotary phones attached, covered in dust and fingerprints. And all the phones were ringing in unison. Then came the files, yellowed, fragile documents stuffed in rusty filing cabinets. VIRGO Compliance Program. Status: active. Test subjects: 13/17 accounted for. Objective: cognitive deprivation plus subconscious suggestion through auditory triggers. Goal: behavioral override. Final directive: create the perfect witness. The perfect messenger. What did it mean? Why bury people alive with telephones? As Arya flipped through the brittle papers, she found something that made her blood run cold. Test subject number 7, Carter, Evelyn. Status: active response. Behavioral notes: subject has begun transmission. Initial resistance high. Psychological collapse predicted within 96 hours unless extracted. Evelyn wasn't calling for help. She was sending a message. And someone, somewhere, wanted that message to get through. Suddenly, the phones stopped ringing. Silence fell over room 17 like a suffocating hand. Then, one phone began to ring. Only one. The nearest phone, mounted crookedly on the wall, coated with grime, its receiver cracked and frayed. With shaking hands, Arya lifted the handset to her ear. Static. Breathing. And then, "They buried me because I knew the truth, Arya. And now you know it too." Evelyn's voice. But before Arya could respond, another voice cut in over the line. "Mail. Come. Deadly. Thank you for answering. We've been waiting for you." Click. In that same instant, across town, an emergency call came into the Westbourne Police Department. A panicked man's voice. Breathless. Terrified. "There's another coffin, another one under the mayor's house. They're everywhere." And in the background of the call, ringing. So much ringing. They don't bury the dangerous ones. They bury the ones who know. Who was orchestrating this? What exactly was VIRGO trying to accomplish with these hidden graves, these calls, this message? And why, out of everyone in the world, was Evelyn the only one who kept calling? But the most terrifying revelation was yet to come. Not all the coffins in room 17 were closed. Some were open. And one of them was empty. It's not about calling for help. It's about who answers next. Detective Arya Monroe stood frozen in room 17, surrounded by silent coffins and the echo of that last chilling voice. "We've been waiting for you." It wasn't just a coincidence that she had been pulled into this. It was planned. All of it. Suddenly, the overhead lights flickered. Someone was coming. Far away, beneath the mayor's mansion, emergency responders uncovered another sealed coffin. But this one was empty. Fresh claw marks on the interior lid. And smeared across the inside in blood, a chilling message written by trembling fingers. "It's not her. Not her." If it wasn't Evelyn in that grave, then who did they bury? Back inside room 17, Arya spotted something glinting under one of the coffins, a flash drive, dusty and covered in old fingerprint smudges. She pocketed it quickly as footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. The flash drive was labeled Project Messenger. When she finally played its contents on her encrypted laptop back at her apartment, her heart nearly stopped. Video footage, Evelyn, strapped inside a coffin, wires taped to her head, eyes wide with terror. An unseen male voice was speaking off camera. "You're going to tell them what we want them to hear. You will be the voice. You will lead them to us." Evelyn screamed. But behind the screams, another voice whispered. Fainter. Wrong. It wasn't Evelyn's voice. It was something else, something mimicking her. Distorted. Broken. Almost excited. And then came the true horror. Arya managed to decrypt part of the file structure on the drive. Virgo wasn't just burying people to break them psychologically. They were training people, turning them into messengers. Vessels. For what? The final decrypted text was simple. Clean. Clinical. The mind is only a door. The message needs a voice. And the dead make the best carriers. Someone else picked up the line on that last phone call. But who? Across the room, as Aria's heart pounded, the ringing started again. One phone. Then another. And another. Suddenly, all of room 17 was screaming with ringtones, like a swarm of insects vibrating in chorus. And then, a text flashed across her screen from Evelyn's number. Don't answer them. They're not calling you. You're calling them. Outside, sirens wailed. The cover-up had begun. Reporters were already disappearing. Journalists tied to Evelyn's last investigation vanished one by one. And that veiled woman, the one with the stitched mouth, was spotted again near the train station, pressing her ear to the ground, listening. Smiling. As if she could already hear what was coming. But the most terrifying realization was yet to come. Buried at the very bottom of the decrypted data was a final document labeled Phase 2 Initiation, Target Selected. Aria clicked it. It displayed one thing only. Her own police department ID photo. You were never the detective. You were the next messenger. And in that instant, the phones stopped ringing. But from deep underground, far beneath the concrete and rotting tunnels, something new echoed upward. Not a ringtone. A voice. Repeating two words, over and over. Answer me. It's not who you call. It's who calls you back.